Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Getaway Day. As always, I am Mason. On the far side of the screen over there is Gautam. And in the middle is a special guest tonight, Ashley Sanders. Ashley is, let's see, Twitch partner and MLB The Show creator. She's an engagement editor at Southside Sox, which is the SB Nation White Sox blog. So we're very happy to have you tonight, Ashley. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So we are basically just going to chat about kind of everything that you know really well tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about Twitch. We're going to talk a little bit about the White Sox. But before we do, how are you guys both doing?
I am doing great. Another Wednesday, another week of the lockout, I guess. But fantasy drafts and minor league signings are getting me through, I guess.
That's a good perspective to have. I'm doing well as well. I just got through like the busiest half of the week and now I'm in like the smoothest part of the week. So we're just vibing, I guess you can say.
Good deal. So you're ready for pre-Friday tomorrow and then Friday on Friday.
Yes, exactly.
I like it. So for anyone new to the podcast here, if you enjoy our podcast tonight or any of our content on YouTube, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting apps or on our YouTube channel to make sure that you don't miss out on any future episodes. Make sure to let us know your thoughts on anything we talk about in the YouTube comments or leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. Or you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. It's at Getaway Day Pod on both of those platforms. And we do also have a Discord server now. It is brand new as of last week. And there have not been anyone spamming it yet. So this is Packers fans' time to go and spam a bunch of emotes. So what do you say we get right into it? We have a couple of really softball questions for you first, Ashley.
Okay.
So we would like you to state your own name for us, even though we've done it a couple times. We want your favorite team, your favorite player, both all time and currently. And then hopefully Gautham's got a more difficult question that we don't already know the answers to.
Oh, all right. I feel like this is the first day of school. We're doing icebreakers right now. But hello, I'm Ashley Sanders. My favorite team is the Chicago White Sox. My current favorite player is Lucas Giolito. And then my all-time favorite White Sox player is Minnie Minoso. As for my all-time favorite player across the league, I always flex with this answer. But today I'm going to go with Ken Griffey Jr.
All solid
Always
answers.
a good choice. Yes.
All right. You got any other questions for Gowie?
Nothing right now. Maybe something will come up as we go.
All right.
That's good.
So now that we've tossed you a couple of softball questions, now we're coming at you with the heat. We're going Randy Johnson. Why don't the White Sox wear white socks?
Well, they used to in their history of uniforms. I'm not sure when they made the switch. It was a couple of decades ago. But that remains to be a mystery. You would think they might have a name change with the different socks, with the black socks, but maybe they didn't want to rekindle or respark the Black Sox scandal in 1919. And
Yeah.
of course, they were called the Black Sox not because of the scandal, but because their uniforms were never washed. So they probably wanted a more cleanly outlook, I would say.
That's fair. Although that's why they make the don't knock that over, baby. That's why they make the cream color jerseys. I was gonna say, what do they call that color?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good point.
Was that because Comiskey was so cheap he didn't want to wash the uniform? That's right.
Yep, 100% correct.
So he's the Jackie Moon of the MLB owners.
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Trading the washing machine for Monix.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess a little bit of background here for anyone that doesn't know. So Ashley and I have become sort of internet friends over the last year and a half, roughly, over on her Twitch stream. So for anyone on that's listening that doesn't really know you, you want to kind of just talk briefly about how you got into streaming and like what you stream?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started streaming on May 8th, 2020. Now it's a long story, but to make a long story short, obviously, that was a few months into the pandemic. I was at home learning, and that was right around when my summer break started in college. I had just finished up my sophomore year. And during that time of my sophomore year, all throughout April, MLB The Show, Sony San Diego Studio, threw up a Players League tournament where each player from all 30 MLB teams was in this tournament, one of each team, I should say. And Lucas Giolito was the representative for the White Sox. He was in this tournament, and he live streamed all of his games. So that's how I figured out that there was an MLB The Show community to begin with. That's where I learned more about the game, because I was a huge Road to the Show player prior to that. And as you prefaced, I'm a writer and an engagement editor at Southside Sox, so I talked to my boss. I was like, hey, there's no new baseball content to discuss. Can I keep track of these Lucas Giolito Twitch streams and kind of write them up as I would a normal game report? And he was like, yeah, go for it. So I watched his streams, wrote reports. It caught a little bit of traction. SDS saw those, and they had reached out to me, and they're like, hey, thank you for following along. We appreciate your enthusiasm. Here's a digital deluxe edition of MLB The Show 20. So I was like, holy cow, thank you. That's very generous of you. School had just ended, that tournament had wrapped up, and I'm like, I'm at home. I have a TV, I have a PlayStation, I have a headset, I have my brother's PlayStation 4 webcam. I'm like, why not go live and take advantage of a seriously crummy situation? And ever since, the stream has skyrocketed in support and influence, and it's been such an incredible ride.
Yeah, I definitely get that feeling. That's honestly kind of how this came to be too, is we just kind of sat there and just kept talking about stuff, and it's like you start getting to the point where you're like, maybe we should start recording things we say. And then it's like, well, we might as well, if we're going to record it, put it out there for people to watch. Mm-hmm. But no, that's a really cool way to get into it's not a hobby. That's not the right word for it. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's become a job, and who knows about a possible career.
Yeah. So, oh shoot, I had a question.
But I got a question for both of you. What was the first MLB The Show you guys played?
Ooh. Host goes first.
So you should know, because you and I bought it together, and we're playing it in our apartment there after we both graduated in 2018. So our first one was The Show 18. We actually got it the week before Black Friday, so right at the end of the cycle. So all the content had already been out, and we sat there and we're just trying to grind the legend programs. And those were impossible, especially if you didn't start early, because you had to collect like a bunch of hats, a bunch of I think hats, jerseys, and something else separately. And you had to have like 100 of them each to exchange for each guy. It was nuts.
The Babe Ruth program, impossible.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Utterly impossible.
So
we ended up. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, didn't we end up getting one or two of the legends though? Like we got Albert.
We may have gotten one or two. Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
So.
But the first MLB The Show I actually played was MLB The Show 2008 with Ryan Howard on the cover. So.
He was just revealed as being back in the game this year today. Yep. So that'll be fun. We'll have to get you a console, and then we'll play.
There you go. I feel you all. I came about the game very similarly. It was in 2018, albeit August 2018, but I did not pick up MLB The Show 18. I actually picked up MLB The Show 17. It was like $10, $15 at GameStop when I was there, and they had like the steel case cover with Griffey Jr. on it, so you know, full circling from the beginning of this podcast. I was like, yes, I want this. I want to play it. And then that is exactly what I played until I received MLB The Show 20. I just did Road to the Show, and I really want to revisit it because I just want to see all of the stats I put up, because let's be real, I used directional hitting. It was on rookie difficulty. I would have more than or close to 100 home runs a season.
Admittedly, that's still how I play. I pretty much grind Conquest nonstop. I just wait till there's a new map, go and do it, and then I play Fortnite until there's another new map. But yeah. So your stream though, in the last let's see, you said March 8th of 2020?
May 8th.
May 8th. So in that going on, what would that be, almost 20 months? 18 months? Well, yeah, I guess it'd be 20. So in that 20 months, your stream has grown a ton. Like I remember watching whenever you had like maybe 20, 25 people in there at a time. And now it's like every time I go in there, you're at like 160, 180 people. Uh,
Mhm.
Seeing that growth, have you kind of seen the demographic change in people's attitude towards baseball change just as kind of streaming MLB The Show has gotten more popular?
Oh, absolutely. I take great pride in knowing and acknowledging that I have one of the most, if not the most, chat diversity when it comes to people's backgrounds and all the different ways they each identify that might be different from the next member in chat. And I think because of that, and then of course because myself, I mean, let's be real, I am the leading lady, if you will, a little pun if you're familiar with that musical, in the show community. So I take a lot of pride, I take a lot of responsibility of making sure I'm holding myself to a big standard that I typically do in my day to day life, and then truly representing what it means to be a fan of this sport, regardless of how you necessarily might identify. I mean, obviously, I get messages literally every single day of, oh my goodness, this is me putting it politely. A woman is playing this game, and it really just makes you sigh and think like it's 2022 now. I wish people didn't have to see this, but I think representation truly matters, and it should not and hopefully will not stop at me. Like, for example, I'm a white woman. We need to see people of color in Twitch, especially women of color. So I'm really hoping to help grow that audience, whatever influence and maybe persuasion and positivity that people can get out of my stream to hopefully grow or stream themselves. So I do take that with uh, deep pride and great pride. And every time I go live, I always have that in the back of my head, like, what can I do to make sure we're shown in a light that we have earned and deserve to be shown in? I mean, it was wild when I was a part of the Content Creators League back in August of 2020. So I had just been streaming for a couple of months. There were several streams where I was averaging 1,000 viewers. So there was always a lot of eyes on me, and there have been ever since May 8th, 2020. It was pretty wild because every stream never declined in viewership. I was either at the same average as the previous stream or growing by a couple of people. At the same average, growing a couple of people. So there have always been eyes, and I do believe that is a factor into seeing someone who looks a little different, but still knows her stuff and provides entertainment, provides a nice, safe, inclusive atmosphere. And I do believe all of that attracts an audience of inclusiveness and wanting to talk about baseball, attracting that passion, and I will never get over or truly fathom how much I respect that, how much I appreciate that, and then how much I uphold that and make that my personal responsibility to acknowledge and approve upon in not just the MLB The Show community, but the Twitch community in general.
Yeah, as someone who's just in your chat, something that
Mhm.
I've always found really cool is people come in there even if they don't really like baseball,
Mhm.
and they just
Yeah.
feel comfortable in your community, and that's awesome. Just
Yes.
seeing people that come in and they're talking about football, racing, basketball,
Mhm.
just kind of whatever's happening at home, and that's really cool to see that people are coming in and then they're still being introduced to baseball and starting to see
Mhm.
that, and it it's fantastic not only from just during a pandemic trying to feel connected to people and finding people um, that you kind of can connect with and kind of develop more of a friendship with, but also just from MLB's standpoint and just
Mhm.
baseball in general. It's fantastic because that's exactly what they've been trying to and failing to do for
Mhm.
what, 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
So
Mhm. Yeah, it is really, really cool. Those are definitely very special comments of one, they never even were into baseball and now they've inspired to get into baseball, or they used to play MLB The Show, they used to watch games, and now they're going to continue that in their everyday habit. Of course, hopefully they'll have games to watch in a couple of weeks, but who knows on that end.
yeah, yeah, that's going to be a bit of a pain. I think
Mhm.
there's an announcement being made tomorrow that spring training is being delayed.
Yeah.
So that was leaked out there tonight, and that's just spring training right now. But there's so much animosity right now between right now, literally the entire time that I've been born.
Mhm.
And I was born right after the strike, basically, within that year. And I don't think there's been a single time that the owners and the players have ever agreed on anything. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
Absolutely. They're gonna have to start agreeing, hopefully.
Or at least agreeing to disagree and then meeting somewhere in the middle.
Yes,
So
precisely.
mutual hatred of the CBA is acceptable. That's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah. But yeah, so and then so last week MLB failed to present their counter proposal and then asked for a federal mediator, to which the players struck it down. But then it looks like now the Secretary of Labor is trying to get involved in a um, less official role and kind of acting in the same way. But I'm really curious to see how this is going to go, because at some point, like I side with the players here in this case. Like they've been screwed since, uh, well, basically screwed since '95. Manfred was the league guy in charge there, and then every CBA after that, including 2011 and 2016, have just gotten increasingly towards the owners.
Hmm.
There's only a handful of billionaires in the world that I think are actually good people, so we're siding with the players here.
Oh yeah,
It's really
one
it's
hundred
it's
percent.
difficult to side with the owners, really. I mean, it's been 16 days since the last owner's proposal, and
Mhm.
in that time, the players' side has proposed two new proposals, and then it's at this point it's hard to see that MLB is really trying to push this forward. They clearly do not care about missing games. They're going to wait for an outcome that's suitable for them only.
Yeah, especially when what? It took 6 weeks until the first meeting since they locked the players out, which is by far ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, and now we're going on. Let's see, 2 months and what? 2 months and a week to the day.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's and at some point, like you could make the argument that, well, the players aren't giving up enough in um, their new proposals, but until the owners make any kind of counter proposal, I
Mhm.
honestly don't think the players should be backing off on anything. Like it's
And
not.
they actually have backed off though on each proposal they've
Mhm.
given. They've given up more and more. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but like people are mad at the players for turning down the mediator, but like they've proposed two or three different proposals that are negotiating against themselves, and the owners are just waiting. Honestly, probably laughing. Dick Monfort's the how is he the chair of the owners committee? How?
that's a great question.
That yep, that is.
Oh my goodness, I feel so bad for that franchise.
Mhm.
Gotham, how do I go into tear against the Rockies every episode? How does this happen?
It's just always top of mind, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the I should not talk about the Rockies. It's just going to get me angry.
It's
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
But no, and him and uh, Manfred just I don't know. It seems like I kind of wonder if they're talking to the other owners, because like surely not all of the 30 owners
Mhm.
want to give up games. I mean, they talk about
Yeah.
how they're trying to get it better so that the small market teams can compete.
Mhm.
Well, the small market teams, if that's your argument, they wouldn't want to miss games, but the profit sharing kind of makes it so it doesn't matter to them either. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go back to what they were saying during the pandemic shortened season, they were saying, "Hey, we've suffered biblical losses here. We can't afford to miss any games." And now they're basically invalidating everything they said back then because they didn't clearly afford to miss games. They're making boatloads of money and they're not giving the share that the players deserve back.
well, and
Yeah.
even to that point in the 2020 season, they were saying we can't miss games, but they were the ones that were negotiating for fewer games. The players
Mhm.
were
Well,
wanting a 95 game season.
Yeah.
yeah,
They just wanted to be paid money for a 95 game season, not paid for a
Mhm.
60 game, but playing 95,
Yeah.
which seems like a fair ask,
You would think.
but oh well. That's why I'm not the negotiator for the MLB or the MLBPA. Apparently,
You would get
I have.
so mad at the Rockies guy.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
You'd be kicked
Hey,
out.
that might actually get something done though. Like
True.
I would go full Earl Weaver on Dick Monfort, and
It's
then
just full
I'd get
on fit.
ejected, but
Yeah.
my team would be so hyped up that we'd go and we'd win.
Yeah,
So,
that's yeah.
let's see, has there been anything else in the lockout that's happened here in the last week? That's all I had in my notes, but I feel like surely there's something. Ooh, the Scherzer tweets.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have those pulled up by chance, Gotham?
I do not.
Yeah, I saw you got a little bit passionate about that on Twitter the other day.
I mean, it's great that the players now have the platform. People have been talking about that a lot, how they're able to actually voice their thoughts on the negotiations and everything. That wasn't really an ability that the players had in the past, and Scherzer really does a good job. I don't know if you have that tweet yet, but
Yeah, we
he
want
sort of
to.
summarizes all the very important key issues that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's a quote. We want a system where threshold and penalties don't function as caps, allows younger players to realize more of their market value, makes service time manipulation a thing of the past, and eliminate tanking as a winning strategy. End quote.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very succinct,
Yeah.
and it's not a lot to ask, really. It doesn't seem like a lot to ask for me.
No, not at all. I
Yeah,
mean, it's short, sweet, to the point. It's everything that they want, and it's like, here, owners, this is what you have. And the thing is, like we mentioned twice in the players' proposals, they've taken back a little bit to try and meet the owners somewhere in the middle. And the owners are like, nah, 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 we're not budging. And I think those are totally fair asks from Scherzer, of course, representing the MLBPA. And it's just quite ridiculous that you can't even meet that minimum coming from the owner's side.
yeah. The thing that kind of makes it even more um, kind of shocking to me, just seeing that from Scherzer, is he doesn't tweet ever. Uh, 3 tweets before that from Max Scherzer, June 15th, 2020. Rob Manfred and the owners are walking back their word again. The fans do not deserve this, so I'll say it one more time. Tell us when and where. It
Mhm.
kind of feels applicable right now.
Yeah.
Tell us when and where we're going to negotiate and get this thing hammered out and get this back for the fans. Because, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know about you. Well, I do know. I could assume. But for Gautam and I, this is kind of like what we do. Like
Yeah.
throughout the day, we sit there and text each other about different things happening, or he's trying to drag me into fantasy baseball, which I'm very excited about. Where he's getting me into the big leagues, so
Ooh.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. But
Yeah. Yeah.
like at some point, there's not anything else to talk about.
Hmm.
It's like Yulmer Sanchez going to the Red Sox minor leagues is the biggest thing today. Like
As it
I
should,
love
though, as
Yulmer.
it should be.
It should be, but it should be because it's awesome and not because it's the only thing that happened.
Of course. Of course.
So
Yeah. It
Yeah, and
is. Yeah.
just to take a 10,000 foot look at this whole thing. So it seems like everything that's going on within the game really not great for the sport, but then externally we've got the Twitch, we've got more and more people playing fantasy baseball than ever before. There's so much interest in the game, yet the league themselves is not realizing it, or they don't act on it at all. In
Yeah,
my eyes.
to stem off of that, I mean, like, we have Shohei Ohtani, who just did something that we haven't seen since Babe Ruth, and he arguably did it more entertaining than Ruth, maybe a little bit better. I know that might be a little bit of a controversy, but you have an incredibly hyped up two-way player, not to mention all the other superstars that each team has, and you're not even going to see him and the others play until who knows when's. Like, there's so much hype around him. Of course, MLB The Show 22 cover athlete, and it's like, when are we going to see him in real life now? He's in his prime, if you will, when he's going to be able to be a two-way player. Eventually, I would at least predict he's probably going to have to give up one or the other. I would assume he would give up pitching. But, like, I want to ride this train for as far as it will go, and who knows how many games left we have of that, let alone a season.
Yeah,
yeah,
in my
and
opinion, his season could be considered underrated. I mean, I feel
Yeah.
like it's not getting talked about enough. It's one of the greatest sports seasons in any sport ever.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
You
just
can't capitalize on that. Like, what are you doing, really?
Right?
in every group that they partner with and they license to has figured it out. Tops has him
Mhm.
as both card number one and the cover of Series One.
Yep.
SDS has him as both cover athletes, the MVP edition, which is usually the collectors, and the regular. And they've got it figured out. They know how to market the game and grow it. And these 30 old men in a room, and Rob Manfred, so I guess 31 old men in a room,
Mhm.
don't realize that they're sitting on a golden goose.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it is beyond frustrating. I've been seeing some tweets of, put people who actually like baseball in charge, and to be honest, they're not wrong. It's a clear argument that Manfred and these owners aren't as big of baseball fans. I mean, obviously, of course, they're businessmen. They want the most bang for the buck, I guess you can say, but it's more than that. And if you really want that bang for the buck, you'll make sure baseball games start on March 31st and Shohei Ohtani will be that Angels opening day starter.
Yeah. Okay, so let's put a petition together to get Steve Cohen is the chair for the owners, because I think that man, he's got so much money. He just
Oh,
wants his team on the field. I think
yeah.
he would go sit down and negotiate an actual fair deal. But I think it's the
Yeah.
29 other owners that don't want him to. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very short-sighted approach by the owners for
Mhm.
being as smart as they are and being businessmen and everything. Like, the best thing for their business is for the game of baseball to be successful and uh, just the best it can possibly be. It doesn't really make sense to just hold out for marginal profit increases over the health of the sport.
Yeah. I would agree.
yep. Although something that I just thought about though, if we don't have baseball again or MLB again because it gets delayed through all this, we will get the KBO again, probably on ESPN. So
KBO is good stuff, man.
I know
It
it's so
I
is.
was
It
fun.
is.
really into that in 2020.
Mhm.
I was gonna say you were getting up like really early for some of those games, weren't you?
Yeah, I would get up for work and I'd be watching KBO game while I worked in the morning. It was great. I mean, baseball, right? When you wake up, you can't beat that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's like the one good thing about like well, like when the NFL goes and plays in London and when they're gonna go play in Germany, is like you get it early in the day.
Mhm.
The London series for MLB is kind of that same thing, but you only get it like one time for 3 games. And but I wish that they would just start baseball at 9 a.m. and then have it go until like midnight.
Lucas Giolito would not like that. I can tell
No.
you that.
He'll
That
he'll take the
Yeah,
uh,
midnight shift.
I mean
that game in Boston.
Chris
Wow.
Sale wouldn't like the uniforms that they make him wear for it either. He just cut those
No.
Yeah,
up.
scissors.
No.
God, that was that the white with the blue and red stripe? Was it that jersey?
No, no, no. It was like
Yeah.
a wasn't it like a one of those black jerseys, like some sort of throwback kind of thing.
Yeah, they were like an oversized blue jersey and they had like
Okay.
these big collars. I forgot which era they were representing. But they're almost like pajamas, I guess you can say, with how oversized the jersey and the uniform pants were. And I'm really upset because I had wanted to go to that game because they were also giving away that jersey as a giveaway. And I was like, oh, Chris Sale is pitching. It's a giveaway. Let's go. And then we ended up not going to the game. And then before you know it, yeah, Chris Sale is no longer the starter. They're no longer using these uniforms. They're kind of in shreds right now. Which, by the way, Sale had mentioned he was going to do like some charity project with the scraps of uniforms. To my knowledge, he hasn't. And I want to know where these uniform scraps are. And if they're in the garbage, I'll be darned.
Well, I mean, he kind of got traded before it happened, so he might not do anything now. But
That's true. That's true.
shoot, who was that trade? Like, who came back to the White Sox in that?
Michael
Michael
Kopech,
Kopech
Oh,
and
that
Yoan
was
Yoan
Kopech?
Moncada.
Moncada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. God, that feels like forever ago. That really
Mm,
probably wasn't that long ago, was it?
That was
no, 2016.
yeah, 16.
Yeah, because I
God.
saw the very last game of the 2016 season. Chris Sale started, and I was in attendance, so it was very bittersweet because you kind of knew where they were heading in the rebuild mode. That That was going to be Sale's last White Sox start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely remember when that trade broke. I think we were eating lunch, Mason, and we
Mhm.
just saw that come through and we were like shocked.
Yeah.
But obviously a huge major trade and it kind of worked
Mhm.
out for both sides really.
Oh yeah. I
What
mean, Boston got their ring, and then now Kopech should be transitioning to a starter, and then Yohan Moncada, unfortunately, was on the down a little bit in
I I
2021,
still
and
have
then
hope.
2020. I do too. I do too.
Still a good player,
Obviously,
of course. Yeah.
yeah, he was affected by COVID in 2020, which is always tough to see whether you're an athlete or not. 2021 kind of got back, kind of regressed, kind of got back, kind of regressed. So I'm really looking forward to a more even keeled, at least, if not super above average season for Yo-Yo, because he's absolutely capable of putting it together.
Well, and he's one of those guys that like didn't he set the record for strikeouts in a season one year as a hitter?
He
Um,
did.
It's possible,
But
yeah.
then he definitely corrected course and he improved a lot. And he had that one season where it looked like he was just going to the moon, like he was going to be a superstar. And then
Mhm.
obviously 2020 happened and that kind of derailed him. But
Yeah. Yeah, factor that I remember the factor that led to the strikeouts is especially on borderline calls where it was at least an 0-2 count, 0-2 strike counts, is he for the most part obviously of course had a lot of swings and misses, but for the ones that were called strikes, he just let it into the umpire's hands. It's like for those borderline calls, sometimes you have to control your own destiny and try your best to follow that off. And we saw that in the 2019 season. And then, of course, 2020 and 2021 happened. So because of 2019, we know he's capable of doing something with those two strike counts and not letting the at bat even get to those two strike counts. And of course, controlling his destiny more at the plate instead of leaving it into now retired Joe West's hands.
yeah, and Angel and Bill Welke and
Yeah.
Phil Cuzzy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we get robot umps in the majors here in the next couple years. I think they're in AAA this year for
Yes.
2022.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what, probably a year or two away then?
It's possible. At least give them like an iPad with a strike zone to help their judgment.
Yeah. Because I was watching something today, trying to think who it was. But they were basically going through the baseball savant, and you can go and look at like um, strike or like different pitches in different areas of the zone according to the kind of average strike zone. And
Yeah.
guys like Aaron Judge are getting a lot of borderline calls there that are actually at his ankles because he's so freaking tall.
Yeah.
And so you have, and then you have Mookie having things the other way because he's so short. So like they're calling things up at his head strikes, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it'd be really nice to see if they can get something, even if it's
Yeah.
not fully robotic. But
Yeah. I think there should always be a human element in the game. So that's why I have like no problem with like giving them the technology to do their job as well as possible, while of course still having that human element.
yeah, even if it's like they set the little bars for the top and bottom on their iPad for
Yeah.
each guy,
Mm-hmm.
so that way it, if they can fat finger it and mess up and it's still their fault and they ruin the game, but it's still in their hands technically. So
Mm-hmm.
and literally in their hands. So
Yeah.
Um, so I think this is a good transition into talking a little bit about the current White Sox now, though. Outside of Moncada, which
Yeah.
I did have a random thought just a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I would like to see Moncada get traded to the Braves. You guys can get Riley back, but only because then I could say Acuna Moncada, and then
Yeah.
sing Hakuna Matata. Um, so it's a very selfish reason, but I would like to see that.
You know
So
what? I propose a counter proposal where the White Sox get Acuna on the squad for
oh, how about
Acuna
that?
Moncada. You know, we need someone in right field. If Acuna wants to be in center, he can, but I think he would be fine in that right field that the White Sox really need to fill.
That'd be fun,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
Right?
actually yeah, that
Just
makes a
saying.
lot more sense. Although, are you telling me that you wouldn't want Austin Riley at third?
I mean, we were just hyping up Yo-Yo Moncada, so I don't want to be, contradictory here.
You can like two players.
That is true. That is true. Can Austin, transition to second? Because when we had Yo-Yo there, it wasn't a very smooth second, so Moncada stays at third.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about second base. Actually, that's a
Yeah.
great spot there. So
Mhm.
obviously, 2021 White Sox traded Nick Madrigal to the Cubs. I'm a Cubs fan, and they they received Craig Kimbrell, and he had some struggles with the Sox. But the big the big thing about that trade is that they lost their second baseman, who
Mhm.
looked like he was going to be uh, starting player for a long time for the White Sox. Now they've got Leury Garcia penciled in at second base. He signed an extension this offseason for 3 years. So it seems like they're going to go with him. But I kind of see him being a better kind of like utility man, can play the infield and the outfield. Second base seems like one of the few holes that the White Sox have in their lineup. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, first, I, for some reason, did not know you were a Cubs fan, so now I'm a little salty,
Pretty
but
sure I told you that.
I'm
I'll
pretty sure you probably did.
I'll
No, I feel like I would have remembered this.
I'll give you his Twitch handle so you could just prematurely ban him from your chat.
That would help. Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, you are 100% correct. With that Nick Magical trade, I liked it though, especially given how Kimbrel has done in his career in the closing situation. Obviously, of course, performing mostly in the 8th inning for the White Sox, which of course bring in some debate. Where Kimbrel's a 9th inning guy, where Liam Hendricks is jacked, whether he's coming in the 2nd inning, which I don't think he's ever pitched in the 2nd inning in his career, but usually anywhere between the 6th or 9th inning, Liam Hendricks is going to be good. He's going to be solid. So that, of course, presents a hole at second base with the star second baseman that we had just drafted in 2019. But I guess with Leury Garcia, I agree. He should be a utility role. If he's your starting second baseman, there's definitely a little bit of a kind of feeling. He is perfect for the utility role. He can play anywhere in the infield, anywhere in the outfield, basically any position besides catcher. I believe he does have a relief appearance in his career. But I guess my dream acquisition, I guess, or if you even want to call it a dream acquisition, I think a reasonable acquisition, though it would have to be within the AL Central, so we'll see what happens, is Whit Merrifield. He can play second base. Obviously, the Royals have stuck him in the outfield, especially for the majority of the 2021 season, even though he is a primary second baseman. Obviously, our right-handed bats, we are pretty right-handed heavy, but with his defense, with his ability to get on base and his high contact, and of course Nick Madrigal, you would suspect eventually in his career he would be batting leadoff because of Madrigal's own ability, at least in college, to get a lot of high contact. Like Whit Merrifield is kind of the perfect guy to replace a Nick Madrigal, but I'm not really sure what the feasibility is going to be. If anything, I do believe the White Sox are going to fill in the right fielder hole before or even if they decide to fill in the second base role, if they do give Leury the go-ahead and be the starting second baseman.
So two more thoughts on Wit there, because I actually really
Yeah.
like that move if it could
Right?
happen, because Wit also is sneaky quick. And
Yeah.
so you're not really missing out on stolen bases that Madrigal
Mhm.
might have, because Madrigal's quick, isn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So you're getting a little bit of replacement there. Leury, if I remember right, has the speed of a snail.
Not Yasmani slow. I mean, he
And
hustles, and I think that's
nobody's
what helps
Yasmani
him.
slow.
He
That
can run a little bit, but
yeah.
when you're talking about Whit Merrifield, he's one of the best stolen
Mhm.
base threats in the major leagues right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that you get with Whit Merrifield is he's the Cal Ripken Jr. of the 2020s.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you have an everyday second baseman,
Mhm.
whereas Leury, ideally, you would platoon him at a minimum.
Yes.
And Whit basically fills that hole perfectly.
Mhm.
Quick trivia question: how many games has Whit Merrifield missed in the last 4 seasons?
I think just one, definitely less than 5.
Mason,
Oh, you asked me this a couple weeks ago.
I don't think I did, but
Yeah, because we were talking about
We
the
were definitely talking about it,
last
but
3 seasons that he hasn't missed or he didn't miss any in 21. He didn't miss
Mhm.
any in the short season. He either played 161 or 162 in 19. I'm gonna say he's missed 3 games.
Ashley was right. One game, and it was in 2018.
Let's go. I knew it was one.
I should have stuck with my gut that he played them all in 2019.
Yeah.
So
Disappointed in myself.
Yeah. White Sox fans, we call him two-hit wit because every single game he's going to get 2 hits against us. So if we can just eliminate that from our opponent, use it for our advantage, I would really appreciate it.
yeah, and that would give another very contacty middle infield to rival the Angels and the Cubs, I guess.
Yeah.
So the other thought that I had,
Mhm.
because Witt's what, 32 or 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who would be next up after him? Because you would have to assume that within the next couple years he's gonna regress. And the White Sox do have Gilbert Sanchez, who's gonna
Mhm.
start Yulmer's little brother, who's gonna be starting at AAA this year for the his first crack there. He doesn't have that high of prospect grades. Like he grades out as a 40 overall,
Mhm.
but would he be, I guess, the next guy in line if everything just kind of goes with the roster the way it is?
Yeah, so I was checking what Merrifield is 33. I do think Gilbert Sanchez is an interesting case, and I do think his success in AAA will kind of dictate possibly what he does. No doubt, of course, he should get a chance at second base, especially because Nick Madrigal is no longer in the picture. Even if Nick Madrigal was in the picture, of course, you need somebody to platoon. Leury Garcia with that 3-year contract kind of gives that time frame. So in a sense, whether you think Leury is going to be the everyday second baseman or just the platoon guy who maybe Yolbert is going to replace in a couple of years, that does give you time, of course, in the draft to do something. Unfortunately, as we know, they used to be very good in the farm system. The White Sox now have one of the worst farm systems, so they're in win now mode, and then they kind of possibly have to start over in a couple of years, kind of like how we're seeing the Cubs doing currently. But I think there's going to be a lot of what's going to go on in the draft. And then, of course, see what can happen trade wise with second baseman because there's not many free agent second basemen that are at least going to give you average quality at second base, if not a little bit above average quality. So I think it's going to really dictate on who they possibly trade for and then what they can possibly find in the draft. And then hope Gilbert Sanchez or maybe somebody else in the minor league system will just show up and show out and play a fantastic second base and force his way onto the White Sox scene.
Yeah. Um, One other proposal. So I know Ashley, you and I have talked about this in your chat a little bit, but
Hmm.
Gautam, what do you think about the White Sox getting in on the Correa sweepstakes? Moving Timmy A over to second.
Ooh,
Correa
that'd
plays
be
short, or can Moncada play second?
Yes, he
he
did in
played second
2018.
before,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Moncada to second, Correa or Tim Anderson to third, and then the other one at short.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna say no to signing like a star level player, but I
Right.
don't see the White Sox doing
Mm-mm.
that, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if they made this miraculous deal with Correa, it would be Correa at third, Tim at short, and then Yo-Yo at second. I think Tim is pretty comfortable and solidified himself at shorts. That there's no way he's gonna give that up, even if it might not be in his power and he's forced to go over to third. I just don't think you want to see Tim as a third baseman, where Carlos Correa can play the hot corner.
That's fair.
And I
Hmm.
I
don't think Correa would sign somewhere to play third base as well.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, if
We can
Trevor
hope.
Story's coming out saying I'm not going to move positions to play for a team, then yeah, Correa is definitely not.
Dang it,
But
Story. That was like plan C to get him to second base of what Merrifield fell through.
no, you guys can't have him because he's going to take Paul DeYoung's place.
You know, is it you talk about the Colorado Rockies a lot. Is it fair to say they might be like the St. Louis Rockies now?
Yeah, so we take their good pieces and then we
Hmm.
give them guys like Eluris Montero,
Mhm.
and Austin Gomber as the headliners for Nolan Arenado.
And then
So
they pay the Cardinals
Yeah,
$50 million. Yeah.
yeah,
it works out for you. If
yeah.
anything, it's the Colorado Cardinals. They're like your affiliate. They're part of
Well,
your farm system, if you will.
so Coors Field is Wrigley West, but then the team is like Memphis Redbirds West.
Yeah.
So
Hmm. Could work out.
so another spot that I was kind of looking at on the White Sox roster, where does Vaughn end up playing this year? And does he get like an everyday spot? Because he was playing really well last
Mhm.
year, if I remember right.
Yeah, absolutely, especially for his rookie season. That's my biggest fear, in a sense, is that he and Gavin Sheets are going to share the right field duties depending on who's the starting pitcher for the opponent. Obviously, Sheets being the lefty against righties, Vaughn the righty against starting pitchers who are lefties, and then Leary Garcia, of course, gets that second base. So there's definitely in-house solutions for those gaps. However, of course, Andrew Vaughn is a first baseman by trade. Jose Abreu, though, being the iron workhorse that he is not going to give up his first base days except for the occasional rest day. And Andrew Vaughn, the great, fantastic prospect that he is, does not deserve to be playing first base once a week, coming off the bench in at-bats. So that is a pretty good question. Of course, you do have the DH spot. You don't really want your younger players to fill that hole, though it's a possibility. Obviously, of course, he could fill in at left field. Obviously, he transitioned to right field when Eloy Jimenez came back, played left field during Eloy's absence. So if anything, you could see Andrew Vaughn covering both corners, most likely left field if Eloy Jimenez would agree to be a DH, but Eloy is very adamant about not being a designated hitter. So I really think overall they're just going to share those duties between first base, left field, and then right field, whether it is Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets, or somebody we trade for like a Michael Conforto. Um, but that's a good question. I guess I will never argue or be upset about, oh, we have too much talent, we can't start all of them, especially if we at least trade or acquire a free agent to fill in right field and or second base. But it's an interesting question that they're going to have to figure out, and I do think more often than not it's just going to be a rotation of who's playing DH and then who's playing one of the positions between first base, DH, and the corner outfield spots.
Yeah,
So
Vaughn got put in a really tough spot
Hmm.
last year. People kind of forget about that. The
Yeah.
guy skipped Double A, Triple
Hmm.
A. He went straight from High A to the major leagues because of the pandemic. Um, they obviously threw him out there in left field. He had never played the outfield before. He kind of was getting his first taste of major league pitching while he was learning new position,
Hmm.
and he really held his own.
Yeah.
So I see him having a good season, but
Hmm.
I think it's obviously contingent on him actually getting the everyday at bats, which I think they should be able to do through the platoons and moving the positions and things like that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Consistency for anybody, but especially those younger players, is so key in their development and seeing are they truly able to perform at the major league level, and then perform consistently when they're given that consistency.
yeah, the one other kind of uh, linchpin or hinge. What what's that phrase? Is it
I don't
linchpin?
know.
I think it's
I
linchpin.
don't know what the phrase you're
Um,
going for is,
Yeah,
but okay.
same.
that's literally the phrase.
Oh,
uh,
I've
linchpin.
never heard that.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of linchpin.
yeah. Okay. So the other linchpin in this plan, though, is I kind of think TLR likes Adam Engel in the outfield, though.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like that puts a inferior bat in the lineup to play the field,
Mhm.
and so then it takes out Gavin Sheets or Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah.
So it's like that makes it even more difficult. But
Yeah, Adam Engel is an interesting case. Obviously, he had that really weird bat 180 degrees up in the air batting stance until eventually he fixed that in the later season. In my opinion, Adam Engel is your Luis Robert needs a rest day. Put Adam in center field, or of course, if you have Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets in the corners, Adam Engel comes in late game to play late game defense, especially in a tight game. But I agree with you, you don't really want to put his bat in the everyday starting lineup if you could avoid it. He did show some positive progress in his at bats prior to getting injured twice in 2021. He had a very inconsistent 2021. Didn't play the full 2020, if I believe correctly. But in the at bats and in the games he was able to play, excuse me, his numbers, if I recall correctly, were decent before getting injured. And when he came back from injury and then got re-injured, there was just no helping his cause. So his question is just, can he be healthy? And then can he answer the call when he's called upon?
Yeah, his numbers for last year in 140 plate appearances, he slashed 252, 336, 496 with 7 home runs. So, and 7 steals. I didn't realize Engel was quick.
Yeah, he'll come in as a pinch runner occasionally.
Okay. Yeah, the White Sox it's a really, really talented team. It's one of those that like you look at it on paper and it's like the first 2/3 of the lineup jumps out at you. It's like, holy crap. And then the bottom part is a little bit less impressive. And then, but then the depth really doesn't seem like it's too great either. Because, I mean, Danny Mendick, Sebi Zavala, and Mika Rodolfo, really none of those guys are elite players by any means. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what TLR does. But is this going to be TLR's last year?
I thought last year was going to be his last year. So yeah,
I thought 2011 was going to be his last year.
Honestly, you were safe to think that because I did too. he was not my choice for manager last year. I was on the AJ Hinch bus, and then he went to Detroit instead. So yeah, we'll see. It was kind of one of those, or I guess kind of is still one of those things where I really want the White Sox, of course, to win the World Series, but I want them to win in spite of him. And I know many people aren't going to see it that way, but like,
they're gonna have
the fans will know.
Yeah, I was going to say, they literally can't win it because of him.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when he had Liam Hendricks on second base in extra innings against the Reds because he wasn't aware of the extra innings rule. Like, that's your job.
Wasn't he one of the guys that helped create that rule when he was working for MLB?
No, that was a pandemic rule, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then they kept it in 2021, and now it's gone.
Gotcha. Thank God that's gone. That was an awful rule.
So one question about Michael Kopech. You mentioned him earlier. He's going to be transitioning to the rotation. How do you see that playing out? Because he was great this past season when he made the spot starts and then out of the bullpen. He was very, very good.
Yeah.
Obviously, incredibly talented. How's he going to do, and what kind of workload can we expect from Kopech this year?
Yeah, no, very good question. Obviously, we saw his bullpen work not just because he's a newer player, but because, of course, he was recovering and coming back from Tommy John surgery. So I do believe his workload is going to be light, as most pitchers are in April, where they really only go 5 innings or anywhere between like 80, 95 pitches, rarely getting to 100 in like the early month or two. But I think he'll be there opening day in the starting rotation. He'll be our 5th starter. But the firepower that he has is incredible. Obviously, we saw a couple of his starts, 2 or 3, or in his 3rd one, I believe, is when he injured himself in 2019. Obviously, opted out of the 2018, excuse me. And then he opted out of the 2020 season. And then he missed 2019 because of the surgery. I had to get my dates there for a second. I think the biggest thing for him is being able to strategize how he pitches to batters the first time up, the second time up, the third time out. Now, obviously, he knows how to do this. He grew up as a starting pitcher. If anything, the fact that he excelled in the bullpen was pretty tremendous, given he had never done that before, like most starters when they come into the majors. But because of that bullpen experience, he was able to show, of course, his fire hot stuff right away. Don't have to think about the batter when they come up a second time. Don't have to strategize that. And I know he would mention that in his post-game conferences where it was a bit comforting to know, give it what you have. You're not going to see this guy again in this game. So just to get back to his starting pitcher roots, figuring out that game plan, that's where you rely on Yasmani Grandal behind the plate, who's going to help you work through that. But I'm really excited to see what he can possibly do, because if he can do it like we think he can do it, and he's gonna be like our 5th starter, maybe even 4th if you want to already put him ahead of Dallas Keuchel, if you will. No offense, Dallas, but you had a rough last season. I'm just excited. Obviously, his workload will be light, and it probably will be for a couple of months. But I think it will pick up August, September as the White Sox make the postseason.
That actually brings up my my next question here.
Mhm.
Are the White Sox going to go out and potentially look at getting a back of the rotation starter to replace Keuchel here when the lockout ends? Because Keuchel has been pretty bad the last like year and a half.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't really trust him in there. But then again, I'm not a GM, so
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that question kind of can combine with what we did with Carlos Rodon. We did not give him, the White Sox did not give him a qualifying offer, which I thought that was pretty wild, because you would think if we had 6 starters, that Keuchel would get the boot, Rodon would be that solidified spot. But I guess Keuchel's going to try and get a redemption. I hope it goes well, but I do agree. If it doesn't, you're going to have to make a move before the trade deadline.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. In my opinion, the White Sox are the clear favorite in the division. So they kind of are going to coast through this season.
Yeah.
And during the regular season, you need the 5 starters. So Keuchel is
Hmm.
going to give them the miles, and then they'll just toss them aside in the playoffs. They just need their 4 guys, and
Yeah.
they'll go from there.
That's a valid
And
point.
yeah, just to piggyback off of that for a second, that's where Garrett Crochet comes in, because Garrett Crochet is also somebody who's going to be a starter. He's just taking the Michael Kopech, the Chris Sale
The
route
Chris Sale, yeah.
out of the bullpen. Um, Obviously, you're not going to need 5 starters in the postseason, but if for some freak you do, or you need somebody to split a game in the postseason, that's where Crochet is probably going to overpower Keuchel and earn that roster spot. I mean, if you remember, Keuchel was not on the postseason roster for the 2021 playoffs, and I know he said that left like a bitter taste in his mouth, and he knew it. He agreed with the decision. But if that happens back to back years, he might even think about retiring from baseball, possibly, because I don't think somebody who has accomplished so much that he has will want to be put on like a rebuilding team in a starting position.
Yeah. So is Crochet then the rotation depth piece at that point? If someone goes down, Crochet is going to be the guy that gets the spot starts. And
Yeah, I would think so, at least for right now, if they're not going to make any more pitching moves.
okay, that makes sense. So, Gautam, you got
Mhm.
any final questions? We're coming right
I
up
got
here on an
I got
hour.
one more question about Craig Kimbrell.
Oh.
A lot of discussion about him getting traded this offseason
Hmm.
so he can go back to his closer role, I guess. They signed Kendall Graveman, so they've got kind of that setup man for Hendricks. Hendricks is an awesome guy to
Yeah.
watch, and seems like uh, Kimbrell is sort of redundant in this bullpen, so
Mhm.
I could see him getting moved.
Yeah, and that's where, trade potential comes in. Maybe it'd be a repeat of the 2021 trade, but in reverse. Like, hey guys, can we get Nick Madrigal back? Y'all want Kimbrel? I doubt that happens. But yes, I would be surprised if he remains a member of the White Sox past the trade deadline. However, if he finds himself doing well and you have Graveman, Kimbrel, and Hendricks to lock it down, and then Aaron Bummer being the lefty if he needs to in either the 7th or 8th inning, it is possible he stays. But you're right, it is a little bit of a redundancy. But the pitching led us to our downfall. In the postseason, obviously a lot to blame on the starters barely getting out of the first couple of innings without giving up any runs, and then of course getting booted out of the game entirely. In my opinion, it's never a bad thing to have too much bullpen help, but that does become a pretty interesting and valuable trade piece, especially if he's not going to get the 9th inning and you're not going to move Hendricks, which you'd think would be the logical decision. Like we said earlier, Hendricks is fired up no matter when he's pitching. Kimbrel seems to have the 9th inning closer mindset. And if you have that opportunity to pitch Kimbrel 9th and Liam Hendricks is going to get the job done no matter what, you would think you would put that in your game plan if you were Tony La Russa.
Yeah, especially since it seems like Kimbrel just doesn't lock in
Yeah.
anything but the ninth. Like,
Mhm.
because he was dominant with the Cubs when they were putting him
Mhm.
in the ninth inning,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden he was the eighth inning guy and just looked awful the
Yeah.
entire
Like
time with the White Sox.
you want to play to your players' strengths. Like, yes, these are professional baseball players. They should be able to get the job done, no matter and however they're called to do it. But if you can play to your strengths and you have a way to do that because Liam Hendricks is such an animal, I don't understand why that was never really um, used last season.
Yeah,
I think Kimbrel being bad for the White Sox was a little bit fluky, but
Hmm.
one thing I'll point out about him is that he's one of the rare guys that has been a closer basically his entire career
Yeah.
since he started with the Braves. He was basically a closer from like his first season,
Hmm.
first full season. And he's been doing it for 10 plus years now.
Yeah.
So you get used to the routine.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So we are sitting right at an hour, and I know, Ashley, that you have classes and stuff tomorrow, so I don't want to keep you too long.
All good. It
So
goes by fast.
it really does.
Hmm.
But so I wanted to give you an opportunity if you had anything that you wanted to kind of plug or talk about here, just give you a minute or two to just kind of run wild with it. So
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. Well, first, I want to thank you both for having me on. I really enjoyed this evening and getting that first original message asking me to be on. So, the thanks, first and foremost, go out to both of you. So, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a fantastic conversation. As for myself, if anybody listening is intrigued, if they don't know me, once again, I'm Ashley Sanders. I stream on Twitch at Ashley_Sanders. Same name for the YouTube channel. Twitter is Ashley22 Sanders, same as the TikTok. Then Instagram gets a little bit funky, where it's Ashley_22_Sanders. There's an Ashley22 Sanders and an Ashley_Sanders taken on Instagram, and both of them don't have active accounts. So I'm like, Instagram, help a girl out. But of course, that's where you can find me. And then if you want to join the Discord, you can find that in the Twitch chat where we play MLB The Show on the daily and have a lot of great conversation about baseball, about sports, and about life in general. And if you don't like baseball, you can still find a place there. The goal is always to be a safe and inclusive community.
perfect. Thank you. And then you'll be writing for Southside Sox again this year, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
How did I not mention that? But yes, you can find my work at Southside Sox. Obviously, it's geared toward the White Sox, but if you're a fan of baseball in general or have maybe favorite players on the team, we're always going to cover them. My duty mostly is, of course, editing my colleagues' articles, but I take a lot of responsibility in the game threads and game recaps, alongside all of the statistical articles as well. We like to have like a 6 pack of stats, if you will, though the name is now a little misleading because we keep adding stats to it every year for the growing analytical side of baseball, which is really exciting and it's cool to talk about and discuss. I do enjoy that aspect of baseball.
We'll just get to 30 and just call it 30 rack of stats.
Hey, I'm gonna go write that down.
Like I always say, my ideas are all free unless they'll make me like millions of dollars, in which case just float me a couple hundred here and there.
We got you. We got you.
But yeah, so thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been a great episode. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us. It's been a
My
great
pleasure.
conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, please go subscribe to our Twitch or on your favorite podcasting app, from Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all the way over to Breaker, Anchor, Pocket Casts. If you find podcasts there, we're on it. You can find our Twitter and Facebook pages at Getaway Day Pod, and the Discord. I'll put it here in the Twitch chat again. I am setting up that Discord server, trying to get our community chatting a little bit more. So let us know if you had any comments on anything we've talked about in this episode or any others. So thank you very much and have a great night.